So Christine, welcome to the show. Welcome to my little whiskey office.
Thank you so much, Mitch.
This is kind of like I suppose not an honour. Maybe it's, most people we have on Zoom.
Yeah.
This is the first interview I've done in my office here, so...
Then I feel very honoured, actually, to be here.
It's not really that bad. But the good thing is we get to drink a load of whiskey from the whiskey wall behind us.
Oh, we do. And guys, it is impressive. Just putting that out there.
and we kind of went down the theme of your, not home country, but home area, let's say, because you are from Denmark originally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're drinking some Kura, which isn't Danish, but it is from Finland. So... Yeah, what do you think of the Kura before we get into everything else?
I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love rye whiskey, I will say that first and foremost. And I love how this just... I've only had one sip of it so far, but...
So we're on the Kura Smoky rye whiskey.
It's absolutely beautiful. It just... What I love about a lot of rye whiskies is that it kind of coats your palate like a silky duvet. And just stays there, but there's a bit of spiciness in the end of it as well that kind of kicks you. It's a very, very good balance. Very enjoyable. Definitely.
I love your taste notes, and that's one thing I've noticed since hanging out with you a bit, that you do really good tasting notes. So let's chat about your background with whiskey. I mean, right now, one of your jobs is within Johnny Walker in Princes Street. We're going to get on to the music and whiskey thing, which we're going to dig really deep into in just a second. But tell us your backstory, like elevator pitch. How did you get into whiskey? How did it all happen for you?
Honestly, it could not have happened in a more romantic way. I did my first trip to Scotland when I was 18. I got invited to be a waitress for 1 week at a hunting castle. It was outside of Glasgow. I can't remember exactly where. And I had my first true whiskey experience there. I had a Lefroy 10.
So like a baptism of fire right now.
It was. And I remember I had it. And I thought, this is like licking an ashtray where people have been smoking cigars, but I kind of like it. And then I just went from there. And peated whiskies have really been at the heart of what I like. But then then years after, I co-founded a whiskey club back in Denmark and was with that for 4 years. And well, it's funny you say that thing about my tasting notes, because whenever we had a whiskey on that was a bit odd, the guys would literally lean in and go, "So Christine, what do you think about it?" And I would say weird stuff like, this is kind of like sitting by a bonfire at the beach where you have a house full of smoked fish next to you, but it has kind of a sweetness to it as well.
Nice.
And most of them would go like, "Okay, you just stuck your head in the moss again. Are you okay?" But hey, I made a career out of it. So.
But no, I think it's really important. Like when you're able to articulate what's in a whiskey and what you're nosing and what you're tasting, it's a valuable asset, because not everyone can do it, and it is a skill, and it's a skill that gets learned over time. So you did the whiskey club, and then you find yourself in Scotland. How did that come around?
I've actually wanted to... I would say just one note about the whiskey notes in general is that I do a lot of foraging, and I love cooking, and I love good food. So I think having that just curiosity about different scents, and essentially sometimes turning into a child again and going out and exploring things, is quite important when it comes to nosing whiskies. And that's why I say when I do whiskey tastings as well, it's just to have that element of curiosity with you. So, like I said, my first trip to Scotland was when I was 18, and then I gave myself a trip here when I was 23, finished my bachelor's degree. And then my plan was to move to Scotland in 2020. And
bad time to do it.
Yeah, bad time to do it. I was actually I was in Inverness for a job interview, and then COVID happened. So, yeah.
It's funny now when everyone says like 2020, people don't even say COVID anymore. It's just like, all right, yeah. I associate what went on in 2020.
You say 2020 and people go, dun, dun, dun.
So then COVID hits, and then what do you do? Were you in Scotland at the time when that hit?
No, I was back in Denmark. I was a choir director at a musical theatre school. So that was interesting, trying to produce, make productions at that time. And then in 2021, in the end of 2021, I started to get organised to move over here, and finally did it in 2022. So in the beginning, I was just here on a visitor visa, and then I got my visa for something very, very posh called a global talent visa for music. And let's just say it's an interesting visa application process. But it got me here. So yeah, and then I've been here since, and quite quickly after got my first job in whiskey at the Johnny Walker Experience.
Which is a great spot to be working, I imagine.
For a performance artist, for someone who does music and performance for as a living and loves whiskey, that was a perfect combination.
Yeah.
Because it's essentially the primary tour is essentially if whiskey was Disney. It's beautiful.
So let's chat about how we met and how this all came around. I mean, you grabbed my attention because I heard someone talk about the musical that you do, which is Witches and Whiskey.
Whisky and Witches, the other way
Damn it,
around.
I knew I was going to get that the wrong way.
No.
Whisky and Witches.
Everyone does it.
So let's chat about that. How did that all come around? I mean, this fascinates me when I first heard it. And unfortunately, you were doing it in the Edinburgh Festival, but I was just crazy busy, and we were chatting about me coming down and checking it out, and I couldn't make it, unfortunately, which I was gutted about. So tell us a little bit about that and how that all started. Yeah,
of course. Well, actually, when I came to Scotland in 2019, I went into the whiskey shop in Inverness and had great chats with the manager at that time, and I saw that he had a selection of whiskies focused on burns, and I always wanted to take my musical theatre experience and what I've done with Viking Age music and, curating cultural heritage through music is something I've been doing for years. So I wanted to get whiskey into that sphere as well. And then I met this wonderful woman called Jane Ross, who owns the Mother Superior Bar in Edinburgh, an absolutely amazing whiskey bar. And then one day I was just walking past, and I'd seen on social media that she opened a whiskey bar, and I recognised the name. And then I locked eyes with her as I was walking past it. And I just went in and went, I remember you. And she went, I remember you as well. So we sat down, had a couple of drams, and then I shared this, this idea I had that I want to do something musical whiskey experience wise. And she said, you know what, I've been thinking about doing something for that bar as well when it comes to that, so let's chat. And we did, and got a bit drunk. And
best things always come out of drunken chats like that though, right?
Oh, they do, absolutely. So we're sitting at the bar and chatting away, laughing away, and then all of a sudden this guy comes up to us and says, ugh, you sound like a bunch of cackling witches. And we just raised our glasses and said, Whisky and Witches.
Brilliant.
And that works so well when she was next to me when we say that. But
and that bar's down in Leith, right?
It's in Leith in Edinburgh, yeah.
Yeah. That's only in Leith would someone come up and say that to like complete strangers. It doesn't surprise me. Fucking hell. All right. So and this isn't, you didn't just at that point pick up any instruments and start playing. You were very much trained in music, right? Which I think is some of what you did within your background. You told me today, and I was like, that is fantastic. So can you tell everyone your kind of background with music as well?
Of course, yeah. Well, I started playing piano when I was 5, but I've got a picture of my granddad with me on his lap when I was about 1.5 years at the piano. And we actually found out a couple of years ago that I am the 5th generation of composers in my family. And we come from... Well, a lot of my family comes down from Bavaria. So I've been playing music since I was 6. I've been singing since I was 8. Went on to specialise in music all the way from high school through university, where I studied musicology. And then when I did my master thesis, I thought, what would I be able to stand writing about for about 6 months? So I wrote about how gender identity is depicted in mainstream pop and heavy metal, and then how that discusses the gendered body both within the genre and the vocal style that they do. And then that's something, honestly, when I think about it and talk about it, my way into how I'm doing what I'm doing now is really strange.
But that's what I love with everyone's whiskey story or whiskey journey into this. It's always different, right? So
it is.
It's always great to hear people's stories around that.
And yeah, I definitely agree. And I think moving over here as well, I've never met so many creative, talented, wonderfully weird people in one industry alone.
Yeah,
And
we get that in Scotland.
Yeah.
We are a little bit strange.
But then that kind of, that took me into both playing in a heavy metal band for 2 years in the beginning of my 20s. And then naturally, I don't know if you can say that, I took that into the Viking environment.
That's not naturally. That's not a natural progression.
No.
I suppose it is with a long hair, right? I mean, that kind of fits in a little bit. What was your heavy metal band called?
It was called two things. It was called Euphemia first, and then Angelic Storm. And we still have some embarrassingly poor recordings on YouTube.
So if everyone Googles
Angelic Storm,
they'll see you moshing away. And what were you doing in the band? Were you?
I was a singer and a songwriter. Yeah,
amazing.
And
are we talking like heavy metal here, like hardcore stuff, or
symphonic heavy metal?
Okay.
So kind of mixing my classic, because I was classically trained first, and then I moved into musical theatre, Judy Garland, jazz, rock. I've done pretty much all the genres, I think.
Give us some lyrics right now from the heavy metal band.
From the heavy metal band. Oh my God.
You're going to have to translate it, I suppose, right? Was it?
No, it wasn't English.
It wasn't English, okay.
Curiously hoping some remember our Claymorian streak. I remember that.
That's good. I like that. Well, I mean, I used to be in a band, right?
Yeah.
So I was a drummer. So I was the guy that hung out with the musicians, apparently. And we same kind of thing. It was like a rocky rap kind of thing that we did. We went on a little tour. We had a record deal, and
really,
yeah. And I had long hair.
You had long hair.
Yeah.
I want to see pictures.
No, you don't. It's not a fun thing. So let's get back to Whisky and Witches. You've now put Whisky and Witches in 3 countries around the world.
Yeah.
You've done the likes of Fejal. You've done whiskey festivals.
Yeah.
What else? What else have you done? What are the plans?
Yeah, well, we did Fejal, Belfast, Whisky Week, Edinburgh Festival, Fringe. Just did Denmark. 3 shows in Denmark. The other plans are that we've got 3 shows coming up for December. Carols and cocktails. So we're taking a bit of a different spin on it. People have been wanting us to do a musical or a Disney version of Whisky and Witches as well. So we're thinking about that.
That could be interesting. Again, I love saying elevator pitch, because I'm like, if you're pitching me right now, you got 30 seconds. How do you do that on Whisky and Witches? Whisky and Witches. Right, I need to stop drinking whiskey.
So an elevator pitch for Whisky and Witches.
Yeah.
Is that this is an immersive music... wow.
Okay, no more whiskey for you. I'm going to take that away, though.
This is an immersive musical whiskey experience where we essentially take 5 different whiskies from 5 different regions or of different themes. And then we create bespoke storytelling, sometimes with creatures from folklore and myths and legend. And then we tie 2 songs to each of the whiskies. And what we've been doing is also tying the history of women in alcohol history into it. So alewives, brewsters, and the first women in whiskey and now too. To kind of bring into focus how women are essentially still struggling to actually find or to regain our footing within the industry.
Very important.
Yeah.
We're big fans of that on the show. As you know, we've done a lot with the likes of Becky Paskin on here.
Yeah,
talking about equality in whiskey. And we're big advocates on that. So it's great to have someone on like yourself on the show talking about these kind of subjects.
Thank you so much.
You've brought your liar with you. Normally I do have a liar on the show as well, but he's in New York right now sleeping in, so sorry Nicholas, I'm only joking, you're not a liar. So to explain everyone what a liar is, I'm looking at it right now, and the easiest way I could describe it is, imagine a bottle opener. You don't like the handheld? It looks like a handheld bottle opener,
I've
right?
never thought about that before.
Yeah, you put the bottle, like imagine it's about 2 feet long.
I will never be able to unsee that.
Sorry.
No worries.
But yeah, imagine the bottle opener, and it's got the hollow bit in the middle, and you've got, how many strings we got here? 6, 7?
We've got
7
strings on this one, yeah.
So this originates from...
Well, this one would be kind of like if the Krabig lyre and the Trossingen lyre had a baby. So a lot of lyres today are made from different findings that we've got, and the primary, we'll make this short, I promise.
It's gonna get edited.
I actually do an entire lecture on this. So the primary ones we've got some from Sutton Hoo, we've got some from the Nordic countries, some from Germany. This is what you would call a concert lyre, so it has a bit more sound to it, like. It resonates quite well, and it needs to be able to reach out into the room even if it's unplugged and unamped up. So.
Very cool. So, and you're gonna play a little bit from Whisky and Witches. Give us some context as to what you're gonna play here.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to play the one called Spirit of Gallows Hill, and that is one that usually goes with. We did some amazing tastings with an independent bottler called Spirit Filled. We've done that for the past 6 months. And one of their whiskies they've got a line of whiskies called Mythical Beasts, so we kind of wrote a script around that. And this one goes to the one called Nyami Nyami, which is an African water spirit. And then we link that up to Nordic and Celtic water spirits. And the Spirit of Gallows Hill is one that I wrote for with my band, Jotunger, back in Denmark. And it's about that the spirits of nature, they will remember if people didn't act well on their land. And then sometimes the spirits will fight back, and sometimes they'll simply disappear. I'm gonna do the second verse of it actually. For the rest, you'll have to come to the show.
I was just getting into that. I was just going to pick up my whiskey and I was enjoying that. That was amazing.
I can give you another bit of it then.
It's interesting the way you're playing that. I've never seen a lyre played before, and you actually put your hand behind the strings. So obviously a guitar, it would be on top of the strings to move it around, but you're behind it.
Yeah, and that's the way you can do chords when it comes to lyres. So essentially, no one will teach you can teach you how to play a lyre. I think within the past 5 years, because so many of us, especially in the Viking environment, has started picking them up. A lot more people are building them and getting into playing them. But you know what, Rich? If you perhaps.
You've got another first as well. You're the first time that we've had live music on the show.
Really?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So let's go back to Whisky and Witches. When you write all these stories, what comes first? Is it the music or is it the whiskey? Or is it the stories?
When we did the first couple of shows, it was the whiskies that came first. We decided we wanted 5 different whiskies from different regions. But then we also decided we are just going to take 4 from Scotland, then 1 from Denmark. So we tied in, because we wanted to tie in the Celtic and Nordic culture. I want to tie that together and show how many similarities we've got. So we had the different whiskies, and then we looked into the creatures of folklore in those regions and what would match up with the whiskies best. And then chose them, wrote the stories. So when I found the creature, I then started looking for the song. And essentially how it's been so far is that each of the whiskies has a song about a Scottish folk song about the creature, and then one of my own compositions as well. So for perhaps the Mermaid's Croon is one of my favourite ones. It's one that I usually do with a backing track.
You know what you should do? You should meet my co-host Nicholas. He's a bit of a creature.
Yeah,
and he's got some stories. You could definitely write a song about him.
You think if he just shows up with a bottle of whiskey, I'll just make a whole thing there.
So, Christine, let's fast forward 5 years from now. what does Whisky and Witches look like in your mind? Where do you want to see it? What do you want to do? How do you want to expand this to the world?
I want to see it in the Royal Albert Hall. I want to see it in the Royal Albert Hall with a full symphony orchestra, with visuals. I want to see it with lights, fireworks. I don't really see an end to this, because what Whisky and Witches is all about is that giving you time to immerse yourself in the soil and the soul of which the liquid is born. That's what it's all about.
Love that.
And we just want to elevate that, the best way we can.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it doesn't need to be in a full concert hall. It can also be an intimate concert in a grove somewhere in the summer. But it's all about making that connection between the land, the liquid, and the people enjoying it, and elevating that through music and storytelling. That's what I want to do.
And when you look at liquid for this,
Mm-hmm.
are you actively going to whiskey companies right now to say, you guys interested in this? Like, how is that working for you at the moment with the tie-in on whiskey?
Well, that's what we've done so far, and that's also the way we started working with Spiritfield. Was that their brand ambassador came to an event, and then went up to us afterwards and said, "We want to work with you." So we've been working with Spiritfield for the past 6 months, and then but we're always looking for new distilleries to hook up with, for exciting independent bottlers. What we want is someone who's doing something that is maybe a bit out of the ordinary, that we can make a spin on in an interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also all about supporting small distilleries, small businesses, and newcomers in the whiskey industry, to not to say we wouldn't be closed off to any kind of collaboration. It just has to, spirit-wise, both internally and in the liquid, make sense.
Yeah.
But we are, so for the corporate events we have coming up, we're focusing on small distilleries and independent bottlers.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this. Thank you so much for being on the show. But before we go, plug for Whisky and Witches and yourself. Where can people find you? Where can they come and see your show?
So Whisky and Witches, we've got 3 shows coming up in December called Cocktails and Carols. And for myself right now, I'm actually very excited to say that I'm currently recording my debut solo album, which is a symphonic fusion between Nordic and Celtic folk music. And I have a fundraiser going at the moment to make that happen. And you can find me on Instagram, Christine.Kammerer. And Kammerer is Kammerer.
Good luck with the solo album.
Thank you.
Good luck with Whisky and Witches. Amazing to have something so different on the show. We've never had anything like this on the show before, so a real pleasure to sit here with you. Would you like to play us out with a little tune?
I could definitely do that. And I also want to say, Mitch, thank you so much for having me on here. It's such a pleasure being here. Close your busy eyes, rest your wondrous gaze, softly yield to slumber in the cradle of my embrace. Drift away on dreams, like a leaf blowing on the wind, when morning light awakens, I will see you here again. I'm in the song that you hear when your ear is pressed against a tree. Mine is the song that's always been and will forever be.
Wow. That actually made me quite emotional.